For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. President Donald Trump has doubled the number of National Guard troops deployed to Los Angeles to 4,000, and he sent 700 Marines to quell civil unrest against his mass deportation agenda after 4 days of protests with federal agents firing flashbang grenades and projectiles on protesters and police beating them with batons and using chemical agents. Solidarity actions have occurred in at least 24 major U.S. cities. Protesters staged a sit-in at Trump Tower in Manhattan Monday. Local immigration raids in Austin and Houston sparked protests as well. Actions also took place in Chicago, a day after advocates urged local police to stop assisting in federal ICE immigration raids. California Governor Gavin Newsom's filed suit to challenge the deployment of the National Guard. He and L.A. Mayor Karen Bass call it an escalation against mostly peaceful protesters, and Democrats on Capitol Hill have condemned the president's moves. Christopher Martinez has more.
There was no risk of rebellion, no threat of foreign invasion, no inability for the federal government to enforce federal laws.
State Attorney General Rob Bonta says local police and sheriffs did not request help from neighboring law enforcement, and the protests were under control until, he says, Trump and Homeland Security Secretary Pete Hegseth escalated things by ordering in the troops. President Trump spoke to reporters Monday.
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators, they're insurrectionists, they're bad people, they should be in jail.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries blasted Trump's actions in his news conference Monday, saying Trump is trying to distract from his failed administration.
You know what he did on day one? He pardoned hundreds of violent felons who brutally beat police officers. That's the insurrection. And so the notion that Donald Trump and his minions, his sycophants here in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, who are nothing more than a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda, are going to lecture America about issues of law and order, get lost. We're not feeling you at all. You have zero credibility on this issue.
I'm Christopher Martinez.
A delegation of California lawmakers on Capitol Hill today blasted the deployment of National Guard troops and Marines to L.A. They condemned violence by protesters and the state violence against the vast majority who were peaceful. President Trump plans to speak at Fort Bragg today to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. He's also planning a military parade at the nation's capital Saturday, coinciding with his 79th birthday. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is expected to face sharp questions from members of Congress in a series of hearings beginning today. That includes the deployment of the National Guard and the Marines to Los Angeles, as well as his sharing of sensitive military details over a Signal chat that included the editor of The Atlantic publication. A UN Human Rights Commission finds Israel committed the crime against humanity of extermination against Palestinians in a new report out today. It focuses on Gaza, but includes assessments of the occupied Palestinian territories in the West Bank as well. The commission found Israel used airstrikes, shelling, burning, and controlled demolitions to damage and destroy more than 90% of schools and university buildings in Gaza, creating conditions where education for children and the livelihood of teachers have been made impossible, it says. More than 658,000 children of Gaza have had no schooling for 20 months. It also said Israeli forces committed war crimes, including directing attacks against civilians and willful killings. Israel says it's been informed the United Kingdom will sanction two of its cabinet ministers, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, two far-right champions of Israeli settlements who've also called for forced expulsions of Palestinians from Gaza and backed the blockade of food that's forced at least 57 Palestinian children to die of starvation since the blockade. The UK's Guardian is reporting Canada, Australia, and New Zealand are to also freeze their assets and impose travel bans. In Gaza, Israeli forces killed 52 Palestinians today, including at least 20 while trying to reach food distribution sites, according to Al Jazeera. Ukrainian officials say 3 people were killed, 13 wounded when Russia attacked the country with waves of drone and missiles. The attack struck Kiev and the southern port city of Odessa. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Moscow's forces fired over 315 drones, while the countries continued to swap prisoners of war. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. removed every single member of a scientific committee that advises the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on how to use vaccines. And as world leaders gather for the United Nations Ocean Conference in France, a new report out finds ocean acidification is increasing at an alarming rate, creating a ticking time bomb for marine ecosystems and coastal economies. The largest contributor to ocean acidification is the burning of fossil fuels, which release carbon dioxide that the ocean absorbs. I'm Christina Onnested, reporting for Pacifica Radio.